Hoot day it is. There's
okay. We're good. Hey. Not as
ready
not
when
as
you
late
are.
as Build. Not as late.
No,
as Build.
no. I just wanted to warn you, but everything
What you
turned
did?
out well.
No. You under-promised and over-delivered.
That's what I do. That's exactly what I do, Brad.
The next thing you know, you're owning a Zaxby's.
Let's not go crazy.
All right. It is the Brad and Britt cast. We're glad you're with us here. We're live in the 1:30 Eastern hour as we speaketh on Tuesday and later on for podcast folks. But just like the bread you keep in your freezer and take out a couple slices at a time so it doesn't get stale, we're good.
Yes, sir.
Right. Of
That's
course,
how
I
that
wasn't
works.
describing what I do. I'm not describing me.
No.
Talking about in general terms.
It's the royal you.
Yeah.
That's what you're talking about, right?
Yeah. So, right before we began, I did a little surveying. Did a little bit of surveying.
Okay.
And the first thing I did earlier this morning was check to see whether Fox News was going to run the hearings live or not. Because I mean, if clearly we all had to be thinking, well, are they going to try to ignore this too? And lo and behold, I was shocked. They actually did run the hearings live. Good. Right? Correct.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, we'll be seeing the stories soon complaining by their viewers. Why did you run this? This just helps Joe Biden, just the insanity. But that's not important. We don't care about that. That happens all the time with them. If they ever do anything even remotely correct, right. But then after the hearings ended, a little bit past 12:30 or so, 1:45, something like that, I gave it some time to breathe, half hour, 40 minutes, and I looked at all three of the websites of the three cable channels, and on MSNBC's website, on CNN's website, of course, there are stories galore at the top of the page. On the FoxNews.com website, in the 1 o'clock hour, after the hearings had long finished, there was, are you ready? Are you ready? Nothing, zero. Did not happen. Did not exist in nature.
Never
Don't
happened.
need to know about it. Don't need to know about it. Lots of other important news was on there, including just dumb shit. You can look on their site, and you can.
Well, I'll show you right now.
So why don't you look at?
These are the people who. This is what they're showing right now. Maybe a little tougher. The Simone Biles story, the
Right.
American gymnast, maybe the greatest American female gymnast of all time. She has pulled out of the games because mentally, she said her head was not in the right place. Below that, you got over $1 trillion in federal COVID fund unspent as Dems push to spend trillions more. And there's a picture of Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer. It's a fairly unflattering shot. Right next to that, we have the CDC in a reversal urging masks for some vaccinated people in certain situations. You want to go down even further on the page, the great Larry Elder, who has been a talk show host for most of my lifetime and a good deal of yours, I think as well, Brad. He leads in the recall election against Governor Newsom in California.
All right, stop. Let me pick it up here because every one of those stories on their own have some degree of legitimacy and importance, but obviously on this day, Tuesday, they would go below the headline in a website that should be up to date with news that you need to know when you tune in. But in addition to the fact that it does not exist at all, Paris Hilton pregnant with first child did
That's
make
huge.
it onto there.
That's huge.
Yeah.
That's
New
a big
beluga
deal.
whale born at SeaWorld in San Antonio.
All the mammals are pregnant. How about that?
Yeah.
All
All
of
right.
them are.
So we've made our point. We've made our point here.
Yeah.
And we don't need to beat this for 10 minutes because it's just obvious that they ran the hearings live on Tuesday morning for the famous plausible deniability, because they will not speak of what happened the rest of the day. I don't believe they will not analyze it. They will not have a panel of 4 people. And if they do, it will be in the context of Republicans held a press conference today to demand why wasn't Black Lives Matter and Antifa brought, they will reposition what happened and hearings. And I'm guessing if you could say at places down in South Florida where lots of old people live and they have a community TV, if this came on the Fox big TV screen in the lounge, they were told to change the channel today by a lot of people because they didn't want to see it.
They didn't want to see it. The villages in Florida.
Right. And you know what? There actually will be, either later today or tomorrow, there will be a readout as to who watched it on what channel. Now, the other story that you can always predict is whatever the total number of people who watched it, it will be declared a flop based on nobody cared, right? It does, and it just doesn't matter. That is exactly what will happen. And of course, people do care, and this does matter. And I thought that the officers were unbelievably compelling. They were honest.
I just took a screenshot of what's currently airing on Fox TV. GOP rep sounds off against Dem-led 1-6 select committee. That's what they're doing right now.
Yeah, now it's Democratic led. They can't say Democratic only because there are a couple of Republicans on there, Kissinger and Liz Cheney. But okay.
So they wait. You thought they'd wait till 8:00 tonight and start beating the shit out of it, but they've decided to go ahead and just this afternoon go ahead and start kicking ass on this thing.
Right. But as I listened, and I listened to a lot of it and watched some of it and listened to some of it, these men, these gentlemen, these heroes, to me, sounded exactly like people who have been in long wars, big wars. They were out of their country for a year, 2 years fighting a war, whether it was in Europe in 1943, whether it was in Korea in 1953, whether it was in Vietnam or the succeeding wars. You come back with war stories. These guys were subject to what I think was a full-length war in about 6 hours. It was so vividly overwhelming. This wasn't, and I'm not downplaying any war story by anybody ever, okay?
Right, of course.
But you very seldom have concentrated, nonstop, hand-to-hand combat for hours and hours and hours and live to tell about it. And this was an extraordinarily horrible experience for these men. And one had a heart attack. The other was tased. I mean, the stories are unending. I swear that it just sounds like a long war compacted into 6 hours. And these men have PTSD. They're getting treatment. There are dozens, hundreds of people we don't see speak, because these are the same 4 officers that we've seen get interviewed all over cable television, at least the last few months. You know, they've kind of emerged as the spokespeople, but you can probably imagine what those who are not talking about it are going through, because as in any war, Daddy came home and he didn't talk about it for 40 years.
Right.
And we have a new version of that now. A lot of these people are never going to want to speak publicly about it. They may not even be speaking to their families about what's going on. However, it is fair to say this might have just been a tourist visit gone bad. I mean, we have to give both sides here, Britt. We don't want to be too judgmental.
Yeah, the number of backflips you have to get to make this either okay or try to excuse it or whatever you have to do. I mean, it becomes, I
Well,
think, even harder. But again, watch Fox tonight and we'll find out.
That has to be off the boards. And considering what we've seen in the last week over the slight turn, okay, when you get to on your MapQuest thing or whatever you use, it'll say left turn, but it'll only be like a bend in the road, but they can't distinguish the difference, okay? And the slight left turn that, say, Fox made in the last week over their coverage and their demagoguing the coronavirus in total, but not specifically as it applies to Tucker Carlson or Sean Hannity, who did a full 360 on it. I think you're going to see the same thing ultimately with what happened on July 6th. And it's the same kind of denialism. It's the same kind of lying. It's the same kind of spinning that eventually reality is biting. Reality is crushing. Reality can't be spun away. It's there. And I hope this ends well. I hope it ends in a better place for the country. And I thought Adam Kinzinger was excellent. He spoke, before he started asking questions. He was just outstanding. This is this is a big deal.
It should be noted when you talk about war. Adam Kinzinger's been to a couple of wars. He served in a couple of wars. They forget that a lot when they attack a veteran. I believe he served in Afghanistan and also Iraq. So again, the Republicans have attacked him. They called Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger Nancy Pelosi's favorite Republicans, and all of this horseshit that Kevin McCarthy has done. If there is any shame in Kevin McCarthy's body whatsoever, he should be dissolving into a pile of goo right now.
I'm glad I'm glad you brought those third grade insults up, because on their own, they can get a laugh from the cheap seats.
Yeah.
Okay. And they did, because they love that. They love what Kevin McCarthy said.
Good shit.
Kissinger and Cheney are Pelosi Republicans. But you know what? It all melts away. It all goes away in the reality of the hearings. It's all gone. You want to go attack those people? Go ahead. Have at it. My question, it's a rhetorical one, but I think it's not, is, are those the only two members of the Republican Party who really, truly don't put winning a primary or staying in office as the most important thing in their lives ever? That the only thing that matters to every one of those other people, minus two in the Republican Party in the House, and it carries over mostly in the Senate too, that there is nothing that they won't lie about. There is nothing that they won't spin. There is no reality that they can find that can't be denied in service to what they think is a broad enough voting base in a primary that will, number one, not have Donald Trump jumping down their throat, and number two, win them that primary so they can be in a... Are these the only two people, the only two in the Republican Party? Is it that bad? Yes or no? Britt Whitmire, go.
Daddy's narrative has to be served, Brad. Daddy's narrative has to be served in this. Daddy is Donald Trump, and Donald Trump says this is a place where people were loved. And if there was a bad thing that happened, it was Antifa and Black Lives Matter that infiltrated this group and caused the damage. So it does not matter.
You think they're going to stick with that narrative still? Because when a reporter walks up to any of these other people and says, well, based on what you heard today, and I'm going to put aside the fact that they're going to, I didn't see it, I was in another here. Okay, they're going to pretend that they didn't.
Yeah,
okay,
it was really tough to get the information.
Right. We're gonna put that aside for a second. But based on the testimony today, do you still believe that nothing bad happened on January 6th that endangered the constitutional order of the United States in an attempt to overturn the election through a violent insurrection. And if they lapse into those talking points that you just talked about,
yeah,
again, this idea of having faith in the American people, that's a little shaky of prospect these days.
it is.
But sometimes it does look just too stupid, just like we do stories that are too stupid to talk about. That one's too stupid to surmise that they're going to say that. But I will say that it is possible that some of it, I didn't see it, and I didn't know about it, and we won't know the actual truth until we hear, quote unquote, the other side. I mean,
right.
I'm sure they're formulating some talking points right now to try to counter the truthful narrative.
The Jim Jordans of the world. And those
I don't know what to say. Yeah.
Well, again, Daddy's narrative has to be served because eventually Daddy's going to treat you right, which brings me to the other story that we can talk about today. Because here's your reward from Daddy. George Prescott Bush down there in Texas kissed Donald Trump's ass like it was made out of candy.
What is he, about 35 years old? He's like Jeb's son, right?
Yeah, he's Jeb's son, good-looking guy, and he's kissing him, even though Donald Trump said horrible things about everyone in his entire family. He kissed his ass, and what has happened anyway? He fucks him over by endorsing that idiot Paxton in the Attorney General's race. So it doesn't matter. These people who are going to pledge allegiance to Donald Trump and carry this narrative forward, Daddy, did I do it right? Did I say it right? Daddy, you're still going to get fucked in the end. But go ahead and carry the narrative forward. It was Black Lives Matter, and it was Antifa that did this, and the Donald Trump guys, they were fine. They had no problem. I have to tell you, and I've avoided doing this because I know it drives you nuts. The Bender book, frankly, we did win this election. Toward the end of it, he follows this group of people known as the Front Row Joes, who are dickheads who go to all of Donald Trump's rallies and sit right in the front row. And these are just average guys. The one woman works at Walmart, flies back and forth from fucking Minnesota to these stupid rallies. At the very end, after the insurrection, I think her name is Paula. The quote from her was, "We didn't go out there to break things. We didn't go out there to invade anything. All we were trying to do was overthrow the government." That is her quote. That is her quote at the end of that damn book.
Yeah.
that is what these people believe. So the narrative has to be served. You have to go ahead with it because you're in too deep at this point. You can't, if you're Jim Jordan, or if you're even, I'm trying to think of anybody, if you're Madison Cawthorn, some idiot like that, some asshole like that, you can't go, I was wrong. I've looked at it, re-examined it. What happened on January 6th was awful. It was an attack on democracy, every bit as important as 9/11. And I'm reversing myself on this. You can't do that.
Well, let me see if I can weave a little analogy here, which is, in the last week or so, we have had a lot of people, not a lot, but enough, who are laying in their deathbeds in hospitals, who didn't get vaccinated, who may die very, very soon because they caught the coronavirus, probably the Delta version. There's about an 80%, 90% chance that's the one they've got. And they are now saying, I was wrong. I should have gotten it. Everyone should get it. And of course, we can sit back and go, that rings pretty hollow, you moron. But okay. Well, again, we'll set that aside, including talk show host Phil Valentine out of Tennessee. His brother was on CNN this morning, telling you that Phil looks like he may pull through. That was as of this morning, that he may pull out of it, but he is heartfelt. He is dead set on getting out there now and telling everyone to get vaccinated, and this is real. Now, let me analogize that with what may have happened beginning today. And I'm not talking about the asshole politicians that you were just referencing. Okay. Right. Republicans, Jim Jordan, the dead enders, the Steve
Madison Cawthorn,
all those people. Okay. Because, lying in these deathbeds, dying of coronavirus after having followed the advice of Republican politicians, Sean Hannity, people, Phil Valentine, conservative talk show hosts and websites. They're regular, normal people. And when regular, normal people speak right now, it's a lot more important than doctors, politicians, or celebrities in telling you to take the vaccine. And it is very possible that regular people speaking today in front of the country, and those 4 officers are as regular people as you get. They are not politicians. They didn't run for office. They are just like any police officer you might see in your daily life, in your city, no matter how big or how small. And the story that they told, I think, begins the process of having the potential to break through people in a way that a deathbed confession over the vaccine is over people who wanted to play along with Republican spin and Donald Trump's lying about January 6th and go, well, wait a minute, I have to weigh what Donald Trump is saying versus what was spoken truly today. By the way, under oath, right? These people are all under oath.
That's right.
About what happened on January 6th. And, it's a long, hard road. It's a high wall to climb to knock down this bullshit. But it's one brick at a time. And I think a bunch of bricks were erected today. And unfortunately, in the case of the coronavirus, it's the hospitalization and the death rates of people who are unvaccinated, who may end up telling the story to, that next 10 or 15% of people who, if they were to get vaccinated, we could corral the virus and give it kind of nowhere to go. And that's how pandemics end, when it's run out of hosts and there's nothing left. But we're not at that point yet. But interestingly enough, because of the vaccine, we have these pockets of relative invulnerability. You got the vaccine, you're pretty good to go. And I think it's the same thing with this. Does that analogy work at some level? Because we are fighting bullshit on so many fronts. It's a multi-front war against bullshit.
I would love it if people's hearts could be changed based on what they saw today. I mean, I don't understand. The information has always been there for them to look at, but if this is the way that it confronts them and they're able to see what really happened on January the 6th for the first time, then God bless them. I'm glad their eyes could be open to that. I don't know.
Except we have the usual problem of the people that need to see this probably weren't watching it. We know that's right. Always true.
That's right.
But things have a way of seeping through, even when you don't want them to. And it's a long, slow process. Now, can we pivot over to the coronavirus and the vaccine and the new mask mandates that are coming out across the country, and the outrage, the end of the world over kids probably having to wear masks who are under the age of 12, who aren't vaccinated yet in a lot of schools. And I understand the consternation over that. But what I think really frosts most of us, we, the elite vaccinated people, is, and I tried to come up with a phrase to describe this. We have lowest common denominator coronavirus reaction. In other words, we have to ratchet down what we do, we the vaccinated, to accommodate the people at the bottom of the pyramid who refuse to get vaccinated. They are the denominator. Okay. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what we're doing on the top. As long as that denominator is just too big, we're being forced, it appears, to alter our behavior. We have to wear masks now inside in crowded places. Why? Because there are so many people circulating around who are liars, who are pretenders, who are free riders, right, who 2 months ago, when the CDC let up on masking requirements, they heard that as saying, it's over. It's on. Party on. I didn't get the vaccine. They've lifted mask requirements. I win. I didn't take the vaccine. I'm still going to be able to have children. I'm not going to get cancer. Bill Gates isn't going to be able to listen to all my conversations. Oh my God, I won. I mean, I think that's what happened. And that's where the criticism is coming about the kind of back and forth on mask mandates. But I think more important than that are the commercial entities, and now first the VA, saying that everybody who works there, damn, you got to be vaccinated. Of course, you have to be vaccinated at the VA.
Sure.
Do you know the kind of people who seek treatment at the VA? Very often, many of them are older, and they have sometimes a lot of different kind of health problems.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and the idea that you would be going to a veterans hospital, an institution, and being around workers who weren't vaccinated, who could infect you if you weren't. It's crazy. It was crazy all the way. And I'm glad to see the VA do it. I think Joe Biden, he really should say that every federal worker in every office, in every part of the federal government, and he could do this, he could give the word tomorrow, needs to be vaccinated. You have 6 weeks to get it done, or
the real impetus is when they give full approval for the FDA gives the full approval, which is coming any second now, that they're going to finally have the full approval for the vaccine. And at that point, then all the barriers go down. It's like everywhere is going to have to be mandated for it. It's been fully approved. There's no, and you're right. We seem to be coddling, and we seem to be trying to dumb it down for all of these guys that just don't understand what science is. And they don't understand, what's going on.
Here's the point. You don't have to understand science.
No.
Okay. You do not have to be a scientist. None of us were scientists when mommy took us to get our measles vaccine when we were 2. Mommy wasn't a scientist. None of us are. We take it on faith and good faith that people do act in good faith for these particular things. And that's what, gets me to circle back about how many people suddenly just don't believe the truth of the miracle of this vaccine. That it's almost as if it works too well. It works too well. That being said, now I think the new conspiracy theory is, how come we don't have the exact number of breakthrough cases? What are they hiding? Why won't they tell us? What's going on there? Why aren't they counting those? What's going on?
I think our friend Ed Cohen used to call these people molar checkers. These are people who look a gift horse in the mouth. That's what he would refer to as molar checkers. I mean, the gift horse is this miraculous vaccine, which was we prayed for a year ago. We got it. It came out in November, December. And then, February, March, April, people are calling like crazy, spending hours on the phone. It's right there in your face. It's safe. It's effective. You've seen the information about the Delta variant when it comes to Pfizer and Moderna and some of these studies, the efficacy of the vaccine. Now, this is important. It goes from 95% all the way down to 89%. Now, I mean, that's remarkable. That is a remarkable thing.
Well, but here's the problem. The 89%, of course, is how well it protects you from
getting
really sick or dying. But now you have 11% allegedly left to probably pick it up as an outlier person. So the complaint now is by some people, look, somebody took the vaccine and they still got it. So therefore, I'm not going to get it.
So why should I get it?
Right. Exactly. That you know what that is? That's the equivalent of, well, did you read the story the other day of that guy who got in the car accident?
That's right.
He was wearing his seatbelt and it didn't help him.
He burned to a crisp because he couldn't get out because his seatbelt wouldn't allow him to. So
right.
Fuck it. I'm never wearing a seatbelt.
Why would I wear a seatbelt?
Exactly.
Why? When I talk about lowest common denominator, that we all have to alter our behavior for these people, it reminds me of, and these were not the good old days, when there was smoking on airplanes.
Yeah.
Because here's how it worked. This used to just drive me crazy. They would put a little card, a little shiny cardboard card on some seats, about 10 or 15 rows from the back. And that would be the smoking section. Okay. So if you smoked, your punishment was you had to sit at the back of the plane and be with other people who enjoyed smoking or smoke. The rest of us would sit beyond that, and you would still smell the smoke because, of course, smoke for some reason doesn't respect row 20.
As it turns out, it's the old non-peeing part of the pool, right? The old joke about that.
Right. So it was just completely absurd the way they did that. And, the rest of us were saying there shouldn't be any smoking on planes whatsoever. And that turned into, does this sound familiar? Freedom. I'm free to smoke. You're free not to smoke.
Exactly. What about my rights?
I paid my fare too. Why can't? All right. So, that lasted about 30 seconds as a legitimate argument because the science was just too overwhelming that secondhand smoke, especially in an enclosed area like that, was just intolerable, insufferable, and smoking came to an end. So here we are now with the disease equivalent of smokers. Okay. They just insist on continuing to smoke, and it wafts over us.
Sure it does.
So what do we have to do? We have to wear a helmet,
oxygen mask,
an oxygen mask. Right. It's our fault that we're not smoking, kind of thing. And you're dragging down everybody by doing it. There's 100 of these really cheesy analogies like that, but I think every one of them is correct. Yeah. Every one of them is correct. And they all, in the end, get back to, are you that much of a selfish bastard that you don't care about anybody but yourself? And the answer is yes. Yes,
it's true. It's true.
Yes, I am. But to hear people talk about, I didn't get vaccinated because I'm afraid I'll become infertile. It's again, one, of course, it's not true. And number two, if you were to Google the question, does the coronavirus, does the Moderna, does the Johnson, does the Pfizer, does it make you infertile? And I have not looked this up yet. You want to play the game? Let's play the game. Let's see if I look like a dope and some phony answer gets put up there. Okay. Does the Pfizer vaccine make you, it says sleepy, gain weight, hungry, doesn't have infertile.
I know that there were a yelling match in Arkansas about this.
Yeah, here we go. Here it is. First thing comes up. It's from the CDC, and then right below it, from WebMD, two trusted things. So Google is not in on the plot, apparently. And of course, you can get vaccinated if you're trying to get pregnant or want kids in the future. There's no evidence that fertility problems are a side effect of any vaccine. Now, of course, the paranoid will say, they're saying there's no evidence. That doesn't mean they haven't found it yet, which is the equivalent to the reason we have to pass all these laws to make sure that the vote is fair and voter integrity is upheld is not because we found any real evidence of voter fraud or widespread voter fraud, because it might happen. And we just don't know. We just haven't found it yet. Okay?
That's right.
That's the same kind of thing. And WebMD, there's no evidence that the new vaccines against COVID-19 cause infertility, yet that's a worry that's been cited by some healthcare morons. Okay, but this is back in
some healthcare morons. Is that what the article says? That's kind of
no. Actually, they don't say that at all. They say it's a worry that's been cited by some healthcare workers as a reason they're reluctant to be first in line to get the shot. This was back in January when things were new. Okay. Well, okay. We're now 7 months later. Okay. And the reason that there aren't lots of babies being born in America right now, comparatively speaking, is not because people are getting vaccinated. That has nothing to do with it, which brings us to the very last thing I want to get out there, or maybe we might want to save this till tomorrow. It is the Buckeye State's emerging number one fuckface, aspiring to be the Republican nominee for Senate, J.D. Vance.
Oh yeah, right? Yeah, hillbilly elegy boy.
This guy, not only is he a former early Trump critic, immediately flipped to turning into a Trump suck up, okay? But he has shown his ability now to do anything and everything to play to the cheapest of the cheap seats on every issue that you can think of. And of course, you know, you need to create a brand new fake culture war wedge issue every week, right? You can't let the old ones lay there. They get stale. You got to move on, right? Whether it's, you know, Mr. Potato Head one week or the flag or whatever they are. So here comes JD Vance, and his new thing is the problem with America right now is that single people are just not having babies.
Yeah.
They're not getting married, they're not having babies. And what does he call them? The childless left.
The childless left. I suppose he's pointing right at me. I could take that personally.
Exactly. Oh, you are definitely.
I'm the poster child.
You are definitely the problem. You're helping the collapse of the family, and we haven't seen anything this stupid since Dan Quayle versus Murphy Brown.
That was great, right? Minimizing fatherhood, making fun of fathers and all that shit.
Right. So this is kind of recycled Dan Quayle shit.
Yeah.
But here's my point.
Mm-hmm.
Here's a guy, JD Vance. You know, he's a smart guy, went to Harvard or Yale or law school, the whole bit.
He's an elite.
He's an elite. He pretends he's not.
Yeah.
But he is now. Sorry, you came from humble roots, but you pulled yourself up, damn it. Shit.
Yeah,
better apologize.
Yeah, fuck you for that, Ivory Tower boy.
Right. So he points to Hungary and their autocratic Donald Trump role model dictator, Viktor Orban, who has destroyed democratic institutions there, the courts, the media, the legislature. I think they even introduced gerrymandering there. I think that's how bad it's got.
Sounds about right.
Okay? All that kind of stuff. As a guy who knows how to handle this problem of not having enough babies, okay, that you know, they're paying people direct payments, all kinds of direct payments to go out there and, God damn it, have babies, all right, for the cause. Here in the United States, we haven't quite gotten to that point. And remember how it was in China. Remember, they wouldn't let you have more than one baby. I think they changed that now. Now they want babies because they figured out they weren't replacing themselves enough.
It's a problem.
Right. But so J.D. Vance points to Viktor Orban, okay, a dictator on how to handle not enough babies, instead of some of the European countries that have a lot of support for mothers and childcare and the things that really do encourage you to have children. Or in the case of the United States of America, the last thing he wants to do is point out that Joe Biden and the Democrats have now been placing $300 checks per kid in tens of millions of people's bank accounts in the last few weeks, and will continue to do so. The child care tax credit. Okay, that's how to do it. But for JD Vance, that's not very sexy. That's not a wedge issue.
No.
That's not a beat you over the head. So it's just easier to attack people who have made the choice to not have children for whatever reason. So here's the government, according to J.D. Vance, in a position to lecture you, Britt Whitmire, on how many kids you should have, when you should have them.
Right. I'm ruining America.
God forbid the government tells you you not need to get a vaccine. That's
true. Yeah,
in your
that's true.
personal life too much.
I'm destroying America. It wasn't those people that attacked the Capitol on January the 6th.
Nope.
It's me. I'm the problem.
It's the childless left. Okay.
I haven't really said this on our podcast. I actually had a vasectomy it was on January the 6th. As it turns out, it was the very day, January the 6th, I had a vasectomy. If JD Vance wants to pay me like $10,000 to have that reversed, who am I to refuse his money? Who am I to say that I should not have that reversed and start going out and knocking up some chicks?
Well,
right?
It isn't so much that, it's that you may not have a choice. See, that's the point.
I'm willing to go. I'm willing to go out and save America. If that's what it takes, I'm willing to go out there and start doing the right thing. Because God forbid, I take all of my cues from fucking JD Vance. That's the guy that I listen to for any kind of life advice on how to save this country. Jesus God. We'll end up on this note with Simone Biles, the great Olympic gymnast, one of the greatest Olympic gymnasts of all time. She withdrew from competition, saying mentally she was not in the right place, and she had a great deal of pressure on her. I personally think this is one of the bravest things I've ever seen an athlete do. I know that there are going to be some people that don't get this at all. The amount of pressure that this young lady has been under, I think she's 24 years old or something of this nature, has got to be immense. And for her to say, whoa, that's enough, stop the ride, I want off. I think it's remarkable. I think it's a great thing.
Well, when you reach the point where you actually don't have anything to prove,
right?
She doesn't have anything to prove. I mean, and it's tough. And in gymnastics, it's really tough to keep coming back every 4 or 5 years and doing this. This would be her third Olympics, right?
Right.
So she's already done this twice. So she's already beat those odds, and she has a zillion trophies and the rest. And she's got a lot going on in her life, including being one of the victims of that piece of shit Larry Nassar, the guy who fondled hundreds, thousands, of girls during his gymnastic doctor days. God,
right.
And I mean, this is the who are we to judge? Who are we to judge here? Would it be better for her to go through the motions and not be able to compete at the level that she knows she at least was capable of? But sports is so mental. It isn't just physical. We know that. I mean, the greatest athletes are some of the smartest people that are out there. They're really, really smart. They have an ability to see things that we don't see, and they're able to physically perform and execute what they want to do to get where they want to go. They're smart. I mean, I'm not quite sure what the cheap shot, pot shot view of this, which I'm sure there will be some. It'll be so-and-so didn't quit, blah, blah. It'll be,
sure. Joe Montana, Terry Bradshaw, Johnny Unitas.
Play until you're this broken down piece of shit that can't get it. And by the way, one of the saddest examples of that, and nobody remembers this anymore, fortunately, because it's not important to the biography, but Willie Mays was a mess. He was a mess. The last year or two. I think he went back and played for the Mets, right?
I think he had to go to the ownership of the Mets and said, please stop paying me. I can't, I'm not there anymore. Yeah. It's not me. I think he had to actually tell them to stop giving him money to play baseball.
Yeah. And in the case of these sports, and I'm going to be really pejoratively obnoxious here, these little girl sports, okay, where young girls can excel really, really early. And by the way, we're probably just at the beginning of this starting to happen in skateboarding. It will happen as skateboarding becomes more ubiquitous. But tennis, there are so many pieces of human wreckage who were tennis stars at a young age, who burned brightly but burned out quickly, from Jennifer Capriati. I mean, there's a lot of them.
Tracy Austin back in the day. That was one who
right. She had problems. And gymnastics, I don't think we have any idea because I haven't read. I'm sure there are books that have already been written by some of these people about this, but what they go through, just from the up close and personal biographies you see when you're watching the Olympics. 7 years in a row, she got up at 4 a.m. and did it for 4 hours, and then went to school, and all that kind of stuff. You can cast that off any way you want, but hell, I couldn't do it. You couldn't do it. None of us could do it, and they did it. And at this moment, considering all that's swirling around, the GOAT, the greatest of all time, say, you know what, your legacy is intact as far as I'm concerned. And you know what? You may end up being even more of a hero and a role model for what you did. And the first person that tries to attach the word quitter to her should go check themselves into a rehab facility themselves, because they're nuts. I think they're nuts. She's not a quitter.
The amount of pressure that this woman had to be under is just got to be, it's something you and I can't even imagine. I mean, the amount of pressure.
I can imagine it. You can't.
That'll do it for today.
Hey, Britt, I've been married for 36 years. Don't tell me about pressure. Don't tell me.
Fair enough. That'll do it for us. We're back at you tomorrow.